Good afternoon, students. In the offline classes, we are discussing about the endocrine system of human beings. So we will be continue and starting from the initial points. We already discussed that human beings, the control and coordination is controlled by the two factors. One is nervous system and second is endocrine systems. We already discussed the neural system. Today we will discuss about the endocrine systems. Students, you already know that what is endocrine system. There are some specialized tissues in the body which secrete some specific chemical substances, and these chemical substances are known as hormones. So these specialized tissues is known as the glands, and their secretion is known as the hormones. So student, we will discuss about from initial points. So what is endocrine glands? Those glands which do not have a gland, which do not have the ducts or tube like structure for their secretions. They secrete their secretion in the blood, and from the blood, through the blood, these chemical substance is circulated in whole body, and they are attached or function to their target organ. They are specific to their organs and their tissues, where they can attach and work or stimulate that particular organ to perform the functions. So the definition is those gland which do not have duct or tube and pour their secretions, it's generally known as hormone, directly into the blood for the transport and target tissues. Second term had here endocrine system. All the organized endocrine gland and diffuse hormone producing tissues cells located in different part of the body constitute the endocrine system. Or simply you can say that all the specialized tissues which secrete hormones and their chemical substance combined together known as endocrine systems. In the human endocrine system, different glands are present. You already studied in junior classes, that is hypothalamus gland, pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, pineal gland, testes, ovaries. These are the different example of the glands. So next here adenophysis, that is a terms. First we are discussing about the basic terminologies which are used in the chapter. First is adenohypophysis. It is the larger anterior lobe of the pituitary. Our pituitary gland is bifurcated into two parts. One is posterior part, the front part, and second जो last end part जो है, that is considered as posterior end. So anterior end is known as adenohypophysis. Second is neurohypophysis. This is the smaller and lateral part, or you can say that the posterior part of the pituitary glands. Next here hypofunctioning. Sometimes the endocrine glands are not capable to secrete sufficient amount of their chemical substances, and when they are secreting in less amount of hormones or chemical substance, so their functioning is known as hypofunctionings. Next term has students hyperfunctionings. When the glands secrete their hormones more than their normal normal quantity, so they are considered as the hypofunctionings. Or you can say that when the endocrine gland secrete more quantity of hormone as required in the body, in such conditions is known as hyperfunctionings. Next term here grave disease or exophthalmic goiter. Students, this is a disease generated on that area, peoples of that area where the food substance bears the deficiency of iodines. So you can say that in such condition, due to their over functioning, the gland became bulged. Generally this is a deficiency disease of thyroid gland, and eyeballs is bulged out. So you can say that it is an autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune means the disorder which is generated by their self immune system. In such conditions, body is not capable to identify their self components and the foreign particles. Body cannot or body immune system is not capable to distinguish between self and non-self cells or tissues. Next term here, students, hyperglycemia. It is the disorder in which concentration of glucose in the blood becomes higher than the normal level. This disease is generated due to the improper release of insulin hormone, that is which control the sugar level of the blood, and due to the deficiency of insulin, the blood body cannot capable to control their sugar levels. Next term has, students, hyperglycemia. Generally this is the condition in which the concentration of the glucose in the blood is very low, and this disease is generally generated due to excess release of insulin hormone, which convert the blood glucose into galactase, and which is stored in the form, and body is not maintain their osmotic pressure of the blood. Next here, glycogenesis. Generally it is the process of conversion of glucose into glycogen. We already say that when excess release of the insulin hormone, in such condition blood sugar is converted into glycogen, and which is stored in the cells or tissues. So the automatically the concentration of concentration of glucose in the blood is lower than their normal concentrations. Next year we will start our topics. First, endocrine gland. Since the endocrine glands, generally we already know that the gland which do not bear the ducts or tube like structure, such glands are called as the endocrine gland, and their secretion is known as the hormones. In our body systems, or in mammals or higher animals, or most developed mammals is human beings, in which there is a well developed endocrine system which bears different well organized glands and their glandular secretions, that is known as the hormones. So the next definition of the hormone is, the past or the old traditional definition is, hormone is a chemical substance secreted by the endocrine glands and released into the blood and transported to distinctly located target organs. Directly in this gland secrete their hormones, and these hormone with the help of blood passes throughout the body and attach to their target organ, where they need to function of that particular organs. In the current scenario, the definition is considered as, hormones are non-nutrient chemical substances, because they do not support any type of nutrient, carbohydrate, fat, vitamins, proteins to the body, that act as the intracellular messenger, or you can say that which can passes or convey the message from some specialized cells or tissues to the target or functionable organs, and are produced in the very less quantity. On the basis of chemical nature, hormone are of different type. One is peptides and proteins. Peptides are the chains of the amino acids. So these are the example of insulin hormone, glycogen hormone, pituitary hormone. Generally pituitary is considered as the master gland, and hypothalamic hormones. Second is steroid, for example cortisol, testosterones, which are secreted by the gonads, generally the reproductive organs, progesterone, estrogens. Third type of hormone is amino acid derivatives, generally epinephrines and non-epinephrines. And fourth type of is iodothioronins, generally secreted by the thyroid glands. So we will discuss or briefly discussing about the different glands and then their functions and their hormones. Human endocrine system consists of following hormone. One first is organized endocrine gland, that is hypothalamus, already present in the cranium or the skull of the body. Second, pituitary, considered as the master gland. Then pineal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, pancreas, thymus, adrenal, testes and ovaries. Second type idea, cells and tissues that secrete hormone in the organ like liver, gastrointestinal tract, um, arterial walls and kidney. And these are the locations shows in the pictures. Hypothalamus is present, hypothalamus, pineal and pituitary are present in the skull of the body. Then thyroid and parathyroid are near their trachea, then thymus, then pancreas and adrenal glands near the kidney, then testes which are present in the male animal, and ovaries is present in the females. Next, one by one we will discuss all the glands. First gland is hypothalamus glands. Hypothalamus is generally considered as the basal part of the forebrain. Students, we discuss in the neural control and coordination. The brain is divided into three major parts, that is cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, pons. Or shortly or in briefly, you discuss or divide the brain into forebrain, midbrain, and headbrain. So hypothalamus is the basal part of the forebrain, which contains several group of cells which secrete the neural hormones. So they are considered as the neurosecretory cells which secrete hormone. These hormone regulate and synthesize and secretion to pituitary hormones. The hypothalamus majorly convey the message or control the pituitary gland functions. And pituitary control all other glands of the body. So pituitary is considered as master gland of the body, and hypothalamus is directly conveying the message from brain to the pituitary gland, and pituitary working as a master glands. These hormones are of two types. One is releasing hormone, which can stimulate the other glands for their functioning. So they are known as releasing hormone, which stimulate secretion of the hormone by the pituitary. For example, gonadotropin releasing hormones, GnRH, stimulating of synthesis and releasing of gonadotropin. Next, dear, follicle stimulating hormone, generally stimulate the follicular cell which are present in the ovaries for the synthesis of the female gamete, generally considered as the egg cell or ova. Next, here luteinizing hormone from anterior lobes, which are also the hormone of reproductive systems. Next, here inhibiting hormone. Inhibiting hormone, when any particular organ start their functioning and that organ is continuous in the function, when any type of message is not conveyed by the control and coordination system that he will stop their functioning. So for stop the functioning, gland also release the hormones, and that hormones is known as inhibiting hormones, which stop the functionings of that particular organs. These hormones reach the anterior pituitary through the hypocele portal veins. The specific gland or specific organ which convey the blood or hormone to a specific network system, that network is known as the portal systems. Second head here, next are pituitary glands. Pituitary gland is located in the bony cavity, or you can say in the cranium or in the skull, called sella turcica, and it is attached to hypothalamus by a stalk, by a tube-like structure, or by a leaf petiole-like structure. So that is considered as the stalk, called as infundibulums. Anatomically, it is divided into two parts. We already discussed. One is posterior part and second is known as anterior part. Anterior part is known as adenohypophysis and posterior part is considered as neurohypophysis. Adenohypophysis consists of further two part. One is anterior and second is posteriors or middle part. So first part is known as pars dialysis and second is part is known as part intermedia. Pars dialysis secrete the following hormone and their function are as follows. First is growth hormone. These are the hormones secreted by the pituitary glands. Excess secretion when the pituitary release the excess growth hormone. In such condition, the growth becomes abnormal or normal than the higher than the normal human beings. On in such conditions the person became gigantisms. A normal considerable height is 5.5, 5.10, 5.8 and this person's height bears approx 6.5 and 7 feet. Next, when the hormone is released in a low concentration or low amount, such condition is known as hypofunctioning, and due to release of less hormones, the patient became dwarfism and their height becomes low stunted or not proper growth. Excess secretion of growth hormone in adult, especially in the middle age, causes the disorder called as acromegaly. In this, the figures of the human being becomes discomfort or disfigurement, and these persons are not capable for survival of the long life. After few years, the persons completely had their functions, their organ are not properly function, and person becomes die. Next, dear, thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormones considered as the TSH stimulate the thyroid to secrete the thyroxine. Thyroxine, you already studied what is the function of thyroid, hyperfunctioning and low functioning, and due to the deficiency of iodine, it growth of the thyroid glands. Next head here, adenocorticotropic hormone ACTH, which secrete the adrenal cortex to secrete the corticoid hormones. Next year, follicular stimulating hormone, consider FSH. Follicles generally release the androgen hormone, which regulate the secondary reproductive characters and spermatogenesis. Students, you know that what is gametogenesis. Formation or development of the gamete is known as gametogenesis, and gametogenesis are of two type. One is known as spermatogenesis and second is known as oogenesis. The formation of a male gamete or sperm cell is known as spermatogenesis, and formation of the female gamete in the female body or in the woman's is known as formation of egg cell or ova is known as oogenesis. Okay students, the remaining remaining hormone and their glands we will discuss in the next class, because video becomes more larger, and to upload the larger videos is typical this time. Thank you students.